I love my elevator music, baby. What floor are we going to? Welcome to another week, another episode, Fade the Duce. I'm Ryan Evan, joined as always by Kevin Duce and Matt McCumber. Hopefully, you all have had a great start to your week. Obviously big things popping with our Illini, but some huge games, in the NFL and college. Let's start with you, Matt. How did you do last week?
Regular top 5 picks. I was 3-2, and then my lock took it on the chin of over 55.5 with Notre Dame and Ohio State. It just never had a chance, really. Pretty bad play there, I will say. So I followed 2 and 3 on my locks, but finally at 500 on my regular plays, sitting at 14-14 after 0-4 start. So I'll take it. I had Alabama and Florida State and Notre Dame. I had all those picked as winners. And then one of my losers, and it kills me because I did a little 7-teamer for about $3,300, and this was the only leg that lost was Iowa 14.5. And I had $100 on it to win $3,300, and if I could have just gotten Iowa to cover, it would have been mine, but no cigar. Never fails.
Man.
Putrid offense.
Oh.
I actually sent Brian Ferentz a message on Twitter. I called him out.
Oh man, he deserves it. And there ain't no way.
You go ahead and pay my $3,300. You're good for it.
There ain't no way in hell he's getting to that 25 point per game
hell no
threshold. All right, Kev, how'd you do?
I'm a Cubs fan. That's how I feel right now. Okay.
Are they losing? Are they losing again?
They lost again in extras.
They lost.
Oh, 2 of the most brutal ways to lose.
Last night was terrible.
I mean, what was it?
Was
Brant Brown again, all over again?
No. So last week, 4-2 overall, 1-0 in the lock, 3-2 in the regular picks. Like Matt, missed the Iowa game. We were on the opposite sides of Alabama and Mississippi, and then also Oregon State and Washington. So in that games, we were on the opposite side. We went 1-1. Yeah, I mean, we had Iowa plus 14.5. Did they get 14.5 yards?
76 for the game.
I'm sorry, but here's the thing. I know it's not just about college football, but for Iowa and the Big Ten West purposes, I mean, for anyone to say they could be a favorite is just laughable. It
still can be. Like, I mean, I don't know why they can't. Like, I don't know. You buying Wisconsin?
Yeah, I mean, I'd buy Wisconsin over Iowa for sure. I mean, Wisconsin's moved the ball, but if you can't move the ball, you ain't going to win. And
they can't stop the ball, though.
Hey, Wisconsin's defense hasn't been that bad. But anyway.
Yards to Purdue.
Well, let's hope we do the same or do better at least. Anyway, Utah and Oregon State is the first game on the docket this week. And it looks like Oregon State coming off a very fresh, heartbreaking, tough defeat at the hands of a very undefeated and good Washington State team, as we mentioned last week.
Yeah.
Tons of points scored in that one. Not surprising. But this Utah team, obviously, their focal point is on the defensive side of the ball. They're always tough. They always play smart, sound football. Kevin, we'll start with you on this one. Where do you have it? Looks like Oregon State's a 3.5 point favorite.
Yeah, I would love it at 2.5, to be honest with you, because I think it's going to be a pretty close game. But I'm going to run with the home team here. I think that Utah is I don't want to say smoke and mirror, but they're piecing things together right now. It's a really, really banged up team. And what Kyle Whittingham has done to get them undefeated to this point has been really impressive. Not only is Cam Rising still banged up, and he is the leader of that team in ways that, like, if anybody ever watches him play, I mean, he is just tougher. He's tougher than a $2 steak. He's out there trying to run over linebackers and things like that. And he's still not right. And of course, him not being, he will split snaps this week, it sounds like. But with him not being completely right, it just zaps their offense. I think Oregon State coming off a hard-fought game where they fought back in the game. I thought they were going to get ran, and then they fought back. They've got enough offense, and I think their defense is good enough. I think they covered the 3.5. Them being at home, healthier quarterback, less banged up. I think Utah's played a fairly tough schedule so far, and they're undefeated. I think it finally catches up with them this week in Corvallis.
All right.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm taking the home team as well. Like Kev said earlier, I would love this at least -3. Don't love the hook here, but it is what it is. I took Oregon State last week. I'm going to take them again. They did have to come back, showed some fight. I think they'll be the hungrier team here. And like Kev mentioned, I mean, Utah is really banged up, including the running back who got hurt last week. He did come back and play, but he's not full throttle. And so OSU, Oregon State 9-2, last 11 against the spread. I'll ride that trend, and I'll take the home team -3.5.
Definitely should be a interesting one in Corvallis. To me, I'm not making necessarily a pick on it, but I would be shocked if Oregon State didn't rebound in this one. I think they're a pretty good squad.
Gotta love the Pac-12 giving us great games every week, man. The conference is really interesting right now.
Very.
Well, definitely. Now, to me, an intriguing game, and I'm glad we kind of go over them and pick them. Kansas at Texas. So I think the most intriguing thing of all to me is the line. Texas is a 16.5-point favorite, mainly just because Kansas is an elite type offense. So they are. No matter what you can say whatever you want about their defense, but they have an elite offense. They have obviously we know Jalen Daniels, Big Ten preseason player of the year. He's shown that, so far this year. Nobody has kept them under 30 points when Jalen Daniels is at the helm. So they just come off of a very impressive performance over an undefeated BYU team who went into Arkansas and beat Arkansas in Fayetteville. Yeah. So it's not like, they just beat BYU. No, they haven't played anybody. Kansas has a legit offense and a really good team. So they're heading to Austin to take on Texas, who is definitely not overlooking them, Matt. We're going to let you start out with this one. Steve Sarkisian's making it very known that they respect Lance Leipold's team and what Jalen Daniels can do. What do you got to say about this matchup?
Yeah, and I would totally agree with that because they shouldn't. They're 1-1 against Kansas the last 2 years since Sarkisian's been there. So he's already lost to him once. I think Kansas is coming in. They're not afraid of Texas. They've got 17 of 22 starters back from last year. They're a veteran bunch. They average 38 points per game. And Texas to this point has not seen, I believe, an offense like Kansas can produce. I think this is a high-scoring affair. I think this is going to be back and forth, up and down the field. I think the over-unders set, I want to say 63.5, somewhere around there. So I expect a lot of points, but it's 16.5 with a team that has a quarterback like Jalen Daniels at the helm who can score. He'll keep him in the game here. Way too many points for me. I'm taking Kansas 16.5.
One of the things that BYU doesn't have the best rushing offense here, and I'm on the same side here. I like Kansas getting 16.5. That just seems like too many points. Now BYU is not a great running team, but they couldn't run the ball for anything against Kansas. I think Kansas's defense has shown a little bit more savvy than we probably would give them credit for coming into this season. I think Leipold's got a good team there. And yeah. I can't help but think about it. And Matt, this might be something you think about a little bit later. Like I live in Oklahoma and Oklahoma City, and Matt lives in Dallas. Man, there's a little bit peek ahead maybe going on. I mean, I know we could talk about. There's no way we're going to overlook a team that's ranked. You're still Texas. They're still Kansas. It's hard to get through sometimes to 19 and 20-year-olds that you're not just going to show up and win this game. Now Texas has a very good front four. Like their defensive line is exceptional. But Daniels can make things happen even under pressure. Johnny Newton was all over the place against him, and he was still making plays. Yep. I just think it's too much. I think Texas probably wins this game by a touchdown or two. Somewhere in the 10 to 14 point range. So we're easily inside that number at 16.5. Give me the Jayhawks plus 16.5.
Jay Began agrees with you guys. So
Begging strips.
Jay begging. Can't
Begging.
believe it's not begging. Now we're gonna move on to a SEC matchup showdown, and it looks like Baton Rouge, Ole Miss, and the Fighting Lane Kiffins head to Baton Rouge. So Ole Miss comes off of a tough defeat to Alabama, where you just could tell. It seems like every year with Kiffin, it's just they just don't really get the job done against maybe a surprising win. You think they're going to have maybe that big win over a Bama or a Georgia. They've got all this. They've had a lot of hype and been ranked in the top 10 several times, but they just don't do it. So last week again, they falter. They don't look that good against Alabama. Then you head to LSU, where I think Brian Kelly's got them more stable, definitely more stabilized. They come beat Arkansas last week. So Kev, I'll start with you. LSU only a 2.5-point favorite. What do you got on this one?
Just quick correction, Ron. And that game's in Oxford, so it's not in Baton Rouge. LSU going to Mississippi because
maybe that's why I was like, why would the line be 2.5?
That line would probably be closer to 10, is my guess. And I know they say home field advantage is worth 3, but Vegas that line would be closer to 10. That'd be a 9.5.
So I get
9.5 points.
Line then. I get the line a little more now. So
this pick honestly makes no sense on my end. Ole Miss is banged up. They cannot run the ball. The offensive line is really shaky. They just had a hard-fought game against Alabama. Alabama's out there sticking. Alabama's defense is good, looked really good last week. I was on the wrong side with Ole Miss last week. It's just a gut feeling. It's in Oxford. Lane Kiffin's going to pull one out of the hat here. I think Ole Miss finds a way to cover this game. LSU was not super impressive in their win over Arkansas. I thought there were too many points when I looked at that spread last week. I was proven right. There's something just not completely clicking for LSU at the moment, in my opinion. However, it could be a get-right game if Ole Miss's offensive line can't figure it out. I think Olane's got something up his sleeve here. Like I said, this line makes no sense to me. I honestly was listening to a guy on College Sports Radio today break this down, and I was going to flip my pick, but I didn't. And I'll tell everybody why at the end of the show, but I'm staying with Ole Miss plus the 2.5.
Okay, and I am going the other route, and Kev's right. I usually look at lines like these, and I think in my head, this is too good to be true. And I am still saying that, and I am still taking LSU minus 2.5 because I like it under a field goal. Ole Miss let Jalen Milroe of Alabama complete 81% of his passes last week, and LSU throws for over about 320 yards per game. I worry about Ole Miss's secondary in this game. And I also worry about Daniels getting outside the pocket because, as Kev said, I think Ole Miss is banged up and they just played a very tough game against Alabama. Yes, there is maybe some Oxford magic here. End of the day, this series, LSU's owned Ole Miss 6-1 in the last 7 straight up. So I liken this 2.5 to a straight up game. I'm going to take the LSU Tigers minus 2.5.
Hey, little note on Ole Miss. Ole Miss came into the season with one of the top returning running backs in the country. Judkins, was it Quishon Judkins? I can't say his first name. He's averaging 3.5 yards a carry. The guy is dynamic. He was supposed to be, potentially a running back that could work his way into the Heisman talk. The offensive line is bad. But like Matt says, this is about the time of the year that Vegas starts to flip the script. I talked about it on the first episode of Fade the Duce. Vegas starts to put out these lines that go, well, this doesn't make any sense. And when it doesn't make any sense, just run with it. Keep going the other direction. And that's the only reason I'm staying here, because I'm with you, Matt. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
That must mean that Vegas has made a lot of money doing that for a long time.
Absolutely. I'll never forget my good buddy Eric Shannon. We were in Vegas. Duke was playing West Virginia, and Duke was like a 3-point favorite. And Eric looked at me. He goes, Duce, if this is a neutral site game, Duke and West Virginia, Duke was a 2 seed. I think West Virginia was a 7. He says, what's the spread in that game? I'm like, 9.5, 10. He goes, yep. I was like, oh, so I should hop on Duke. He's like, no, you moron, hop on West Virginia. And I did. I threw money on them to win money line, and they did. They upset Duke that year. It's one of those. It was a lesson that's been learned. So Vegas starts to do this later in the season. They catch you up. They know something that maybe we don't.
Exactly. Yeah.
The next two are some.
But this is a rivalry game, especially for Ole Miss. Let's not forget that LSU might not have it in their feathers. That's this rivalry game, but it is almost at night. It is a home dog in prime time. I'm gonna take it.
Was this the game that way back in the day that the guy scored a touchdown and did the peeing dog?
That was the Egg Bowl. That was against Mississippi State.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh man, that's too good. I think New Mexico State's quarterback has taken a lesson on that. He took a leak on the New Mexico midfield logo. So,
oh dang,
yeah, and they have him on video doing it. So the next two are actually intriguing ACC type matchups. I mean, well, ACC in the sense that Notre Dame would ever actually join them in football, but they just like to play them in an ACC schedule. So this game is very intriguing. And Matt, we started with you last or Kevin?
Start with Kev.
Okay, so we'll start with you, but Matt, Notre Dame coming off think about that. There is no more heartbreaking loss than basically getting walked off on your home field when you really were the better team for pretty much, the whole majority of the game. Kevin, you sent me this really cool screen about, what was it, net success, right?
Yeah.
And showed you teams that really won, dominated, but didn't win by much compared to teams that dominated and lost. And Notre Dame was so high on that chart where they shouldn't have lost the game because really they just outplayed Ohio State. In Illinois, the same sense that they dominated and won by 6. So Notre Dame coming off this goes to Duke, who beat up on Clemson earlier in the year, who's been a super impressive team. I think that's definitely a coach and a program on the rise. It's in Durham.
Yep.
Where this line is 5.5 for Notre Dame, is a favorite on the road. What do you got on this one?
Well, and Ryan Day is trying to fight everybody. It's the state of Ohio versus everybody else. Just remember.
Right.
That. Yeah, right.
Girls getting picked on, man. It's ridiculous.
I'm I've never heard that in my life. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. But anyways, I digress. So Duke, very good defense. Haven't allowed more than 14 points all season. Notre Dame averaging about 36 a game. So something's got to give here. I think Duke's secondary, very, very good. They rank 4th in the country in passing yards per attempt here at 4.4, okay, which is outstanding. Notre Dame pretty balanced, but Sam Hartman more than likely is going to throw, more passes than they run. I really like Duke's secondary here. And a little side bet, the over-under is 52.5. I would take the under on this. We saw how it played out last week, Notre Dame, Ohio State. Both of these teams rank outside the top 100 in pace of play. So something to keep in mind there. I think it'll be a low-scoring affair. Low scoring to me at 5.5 points, too much. I'm taking Duke. Primetime game, primetime dog, plus 5.5.
That's right. Home team at home, primetime at night. It's Kevin Duce special.
Yeah.
That's all you got to say, dog. Home dog and primetime. Game day there for the first time ever.
That's right. Yeah.
The Cameron Crazies are going to invade whatever crap hole football stadium they have because I'm sure they've never spent any money on that place. It's probably like Ryan Field, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking it, but Mike Elko's got something going there.
They don't feel that they get about half. Okay, so when Clemson came earlier in the year, Kev, they only had half of the stadium was their fans.
They will fill that thing this week. They will absolutely fill it, dude. They have got a good program. They've got a good team. They play good defense. I do think Notre Dame bounces back. I think Notre Dame might even pull this one off late and break some hearts in a reversal of what happened last week. But I got 5.5 points. I don't see Notre Dame winning this game by a touchdown. You saw a Duke team that throttled Clemson. That's the same Clemson team that gave Florida State everything they wanted and, frankly, probably should have won that game. They probably gave that game away. And Florida State's a darn good team. And Clemson's proven they're probably better than you think. So I really am buying what Duke is doing in Mike Elko. Mike Elko, if there is a really high-level Power 5 job available at the end of this year, and I'm not talking Michigan State, I wouldn't be surprised. He's got to be a front runner up there. And if he's watched what's happened to Matt Campbell's career, he's going to jump on it. I can't help the game day at home dog, prime time, 5.5 points. Give it to me all day long and twice on Sunday. And I'm with Matt. I love the under on that one.
And no shame in my game here. Anytime I can get in the line I plug in on some of these, I want people to know this too. Sabur Kareem was down between Illinois and Duke.
I was just thinking of the same thing.
Everybody was like Duke, and I'm like, well, they won 9 games last year. I'm thinking it's really like they have a good program. A lot of people are just like, oh, whatever, It was close. He almost picked Duke, and you can see how good their secondary is there. It's a really good program with good coaches. He picked Illinois, so I just want everybody to know. Sabur Kareem, almost went to Duke, but he loved what Illinois was selling, so we got a good one. He showed himself.
Almost got a pick 6 too if he hold on to the ball.
Yeah, man, no kidding.
That was right in front of you, wasn't it, Matt?
Yeah, it was pretty close.
So we're going to keep that same tone with Clemson here. This is always a like trap type game. Usually, though, for Dabo Swinney's team, Syracuse, I believe, has gotten them once or twice in his tenure there at the Dome, and they actually almost beat them in Death Valley last year. Syracuse had Clemson pretty much down and out, and then Klubnik came in and saved their tails. So this is in the Dome. Schrader is as tough as nails. They're undefeated. They're close to being ranked. But Clemson, this isn't the normal Clemson. 2-2, coming off of 2 losses. Especially one with as heartbreaking as it was last week. Is this going to be a motivated Clemson, Kev, that comes to the Dome?
It absolutely is. But you're going to give me a home dog again with 6.5 points.
It's 11 a.m. kick, though.
It's not a primetime game, but you got people in northern New York who are buying in. They're excited. I got a lot of friends up there. I was stationed in the Army up there. This is like, so you look at Syracuse. Syracuse is averaging, and they're 4-0. They got 850 some yards rushing on the season, so they're averaging over 200 yards rushing a game, and they got 1,100. They're averaging almost 300 yards passing. It's a very well balanced offense. Now, the thing I worry about with them is, yes, they gave up quite a few yards to Purdue. That was the one game where their defense bent quite a bit, and that's by far and away the best team they played on their schedule. I think Purdue's better than Army and Western Michigan, and obviously Colgate. So it's a little bit challenging there because they haven't really played anybody. But I'm buying what Dino Babers has got going on up there. He's revamped the defense. He came in there as an offensive guru, and when Schrader has played, they started the season 6-0 last year, and Schrader got banged up, and it changed everything. If they can keep him healthy, he's their leading rusher too. So that's a bit of a concern when you got a quarterback running that much. And he's a little bit of a maniac, just like Cam Rising. But I'm going to stick with the orange here. They're playing, like I said, they're at home. They're getting 6.5 points. They're going to have a raucous crowd inside the Carrier Dome. Clemson played an extremely tough schedule so far this year. They're a little bit they've just played a really tough physical game against Florida State. Give me Cuse in 6.5. Clemson might win, but I don't think they cover. I don't think they win by a touchdown.
Yeah, I'm with Kev on this. I'm taking the Cuse plus 6.5 here. Clemson 1-5 last 6 against the spread against Syracuse, so not in their. I don't think they play them very well. Clemson 2-13 against the spread. Their last 15 September games, not great. And Cuse 8-2 straight up at home last 10 games. So I think Syracuse has got a lot of momentum on their side. They're feeling good about themselves. On the other flip side, you got a Clemson team kind of reeling a little bit. They're not the Clemson of old, as you mentioned. And I think Cade Klubnik has just been okay. I think he kind of, like we talked about earlier, I think he gave the game away last week against Florida State. He had a fumble that got returned for a touchdown and threw a bad interception late. I know the Clemson fans on Twitter were none too pleased, but I just think even it is 11 a.m. kickoff, I think this goes in Clemson or Syracuse's favor. A lot of points here. I think it'll be close, maybe 3-4 point game, but I'll take Syracuse and the points.
This is another one where a public Joe Q public average better looks at this and just thinks, well, it's Clemson, Syracuse. Clemson's on, like, doesn't do the research. Syracuse is a pretty good football team.
Yes.
Before we get to the locks of the week, I feel like because that's the last thing I want to discuss on here. Maybe you might throw a little line fun in. Any other, just each one of you, any other fun late night ones, that you got your eye on? I can tell you this. I was wrong about how good Air Force was because even though San Jose State was hanging in there and I feel like should have been a lot closer than the score indicated, Air Force has like this unstoppable option attack where, I know most people feel that, but they've got so many guys, so many athletes and on that team. And I watched them, and they're tough. Matt, you got anything fun late night, for people to be checking out maybe?
I know last week I told the fans, Hawaii -3 trying to get right. I took it and it was up to 3.5 and I couldn't even stay up past 1 o'clock. So I made it to like halftime. They were down 17-3 at half. And I'm like, oh, I lost this game. Ended up 2017. I still lost because of the hook, but they at least, pushed on the -3. I'm looking at Washington at Arizona. It's -18.5. Washington might score 70 on them. Arizona's 3-1. I get it. They haven't played really anybody so far this year. They're still an up-and-coming program. Give me Penix Jr. just, going ape all over them.
Yeah, and that goes totally against my thought process, right? It's a home dog in the prime time, and it's a big number. But I think there's too much apathy around the program at Arizona still. I don't know that folks in Tucson are coming out. They squeaked a win out against a bad Stanford team. They lost to a pretty average Mississippi State team. Mississippi State's another team, home dog in prime time. It's 14.5.
Yeah.
I kind of like Mississippi State there. When I looked at the line originally, I liked South Carolina. I don't think Tennessee's really going to blow the doors off anybody, but Nealon, Knight, it's a good. I'm not buying into that. The one game, and I actually talked to Matt about this offline, is kind of like Louisiana +11 against Minnesota. Minnesota's got some problems, dude. They got some real issues. They can't score. And Louisiana's a pretty good football team that people are kind of maybe not really thinking about, right? I think it's a Sun Belt team. The Sun Belt showed last year what they could do against some teams. I think Louisiana's 3-1.
I really like that pick.
Their one loss was to ODU's a pretty decent, team.
Not a bad.
They haven't played anybody, but Minnesota just struggles to score so much unless you're Northwestern, and then you give up 21 points or whatever, 24 points in the fourth quarter. Some ain't right up there. And give me Louisiana +11 points and that one. So
Kevin did not believe me, Matt, on the show, keeping it orange and blue. He didn't know because, he was in Oregon. And I just mentioned, the Big Ten standings. And I was like, I'm not putting Minnesota in front of Illinois. They just blew a 21-point lead to Northwestern. He went, what'd you say? And I said, they blew a 21-point lead to Northwestern. He's like, oh, well, they won in overtime, right? I'm like, no.
I was in Oregon for wedding festivities, and I'm officiating my brother-in-law's wedding. It's hard to keep track of all the games that are going on. And I looked at last time I looked at the game, it was 31-10. I'm like, oh, what? And then I'm like, and then I also didn't know what went on with Akron and Indiana. It was yucky day. Yucky day for the Big Ten West last week.
Oh, man. So, Matt, I can tell you this. Matt's on the come up. If you've been sleeping on him with your picks, you know what? You probably made your money back. You're probably back to zero now.
Pretty much, yeah.
Hey, here's a couple ones, just a little Sunday special for you. Denver -3.5. Jump on it all day long. The Bears are terrible. I know Denver gave up 70. I don't care. The Bears are terrible. Here's another one. One more. Matt and I discussed this one. Cowboys, Patriots, under. That game's got 2014 written all over it.
Yep. I totally agree.
So Matt started out very slow, but he's made that climb up. I think, Matt, you're on that. You're about to break over 500 this week, I think.
I sure hope.
3-3 last week, 14-14 overall. Matt, we're just got to get your locks up. So you got these locks. So what's your lock where you just like, you know what, this is hitting?
I'm going to Norman, Oklahoma, and I'm taking the Sooners -20 versus the Iowa State Cyclones.
Can't score, right? Can't score.
Can't score. Now, they scored last week against a very, very shitty Oklahoma State team, and I think both of those teams are shitty, so that's why it was such high scoring. But, yeah, I mean, Oklahoma defense is a totally different animal, especially in their front seven. They have athletes all over the place. I don't know how Iowa State is going to get more than 7 in this game. They might luck into something, 10 at max. You have an Oklahoma team averaging 47 a game. Yes, they went on the road and only scored 20 at Cincinnati, but, you know, it's first true road game of the season. League game now. Cincinnati was ready for him. Final 20-6, but I'm taking Oklahoma -20. This is looking like 56-7, 56-10 OU.
Well, you thinking OU's putting it on them, huh?
On them.
Okay. All right. I like it, though. You're going brash. You're going bold. And you're going right in Kevin's neck of the woods.
I don't think by that look he really agrees with me on that one.
So I can tell you this, people, so far, though. Kev is – if you guys have been following Kevin's lock of the weeks, you guys have been making money. I mean, right. So, Kevin, your lock of the week, last week you went 4-2. You're 16-12 overall. What 4-1 on locks, right?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So, to make it 5-1, what do we have?
Well, it's kind of funny. We talked about the locks last week. There was 4 major dogs in the NFL. Only one won, let alone covered, and that was the Chiefs. It was a little nutty last week in the NFL with touchdown dogs winning, so that was a little bit crazy. If you'd have taken a 3-team money line parlay on that, you'd have had a nice day.
Man.
All right, so I'm going to be completely honest here, like completely honest. I'm going outside the football world for this pick, and this pick is 100% a heart pick. I am taking the U.S. -110 money line to retain the Ryder Cup and beat Europe in Rome, win our first Ryder Cup in Europe in 30 years. I think we got some guys playing like my buddy Chad Phillips says. He calls them red asses, right? It's guys who get a little bit fired up, guys who are really proud to play for the USA. I think Justin Thomas is going to play really well this week. There's a lot of eyes on him. I think Sam Burns is going to come out fired up. Max Homa went 4-0 in the President's Cup last year. Yes, I know you could make the argument that the 3 best players right now are all European, but I can make the argument too that the 3 worst players are also European. So those middle matches on Sunday are going to be phenomenal. I'm going to have to get up at like 2:00 in the morning and watch that. But dude, it's if you are even the casual golf fan, you know that this is one of the best sporting events that comes around every other year. And after what my Cubs did, after what my Bears are doing, please, Illini and U.S. Ryder Cup, give me something to smile about this weekend.
You know, Matt, are you a Cardinal fan?
I am.
You know what? So we can talk for just a second. Isn't it nice, though, this year we just don't have to worry about that, you know, the heartbreak, the nervousness of the, oh, my gosh, who's pitching late innings, you know? It's just like, oh, just focus on other things, right?
I would love to worry about it, I'll be honest. But I have no room to talk this year because, I mean, they're dead last in the Central, and it's the worst Cardinal team since the early 90s, since I've
Wait till next year.
Wait till next year, the Cubs mantra. Yeah, back-to-back nights for the Cubbies, not good. But I did hit the over 10 tonight in extras, so I'll take it.
All right, back to you're still put money on Major League Baseball games, Matt?
I am. I had a good day today.
Okay, all right. So have to sneak this in before we get off. Kevin, what's the line, the Purdue Illinois line right now?
It's moved down to a pick 'em.
Oh, okay.
I saw the pick earlier today. It might be one Purdue, Matt.
Yes.
Yeah. It was 2.5 though, right, to start for Purdue?
I thought I saw 3.5 maybe to open. I'll have to go look at scores and odds, but you know.
So what are you making of that? You think that's just Vegas trying to make money, or you think that more people that people really are buying into Illinois is just a better team?
We've got to flip to the script. It's gone from +1 Purdue or -1 Purdue this afternoon to -1 Illinois right now.
Wow.
So what that means is money is coming in on
Illinois, yep.
So and sometimes that can mean big money. That can mean the sharps are in on that. Matt, you got any heads up on what the sharps are saying?
Yeah, let me see here. So 68% of the bet is Illinois right now, with 88% of the sharp money. So
Ooh.
that's a difference of 20% right there. That's a signal that you try to look at in betting. And compare that, only 12% of the money's on Purdue right now. So, you go either way, but some people say follow the money. So those are the sharps.
So from what I would take is they're really believing the Illinois schedule and who they've played. Illinois has been a little more impressive, probably. They probably feel. I mean, that's just my take on it. But I think Illinois. I'm picking Illinois to win. Me and Kevin, I think, already did that on keeping it orange and blue. But Matt, we talked offline here. What do your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I saw it today at +1, and I said, I think this is on a Illini team that would win this game. It's funny, strength of schedule, Sargent ratings, Illinois number 5, Purdue number 8, and so I think they both played a tough schedule here, but I like the Illini. I think they might still have a little bit bad taste in their mouth from last week, just how it ended. Not, they're obviously happy with the win, but and then 2, I think the Ryan Walters factor of just guys on the team, wanting to. I don't know how it's perceived, but putting a little dig in towards somebody that left them to go somewhere else.
And I don't think it's bad blood towards Ryan, but I think it's more of like, you know what? Why would you want to go show up at their home with, like Isaiah Williams and Reggie Love? Their mentor, like a father figure to them, is Corey Patterson, and he's on
Randolph.
Yeah, right.
The coaches are going to say all that shit, and they mean it. I know Aaron means it. I know he loves Ryan Walters, and I know Brett Bielema is happy for him, and I know they're happy for those guys and wishing them the best. They're making more money. Those guys think like it's a business. I guarantee you that ain't the sentiment in the locker room. I guarantee you that Johnny Newton don't feel that way, that Keith Randolph doesn't feel that way. I can promise you that. Absolutely. I will tell you this. One of the things about the line that's out there, as we're talking about, it was a gambling podcast here, is the line's gone up 7 points in the over-under. I went from 46.5 to 53.5. That's a pretty significant move. I would look at the under if I was going to play this game. I like to reverse that split. And here's one thing. So Matt talked about it, right? Matt's got access. You can pay for access. You can see where the sharp money is coming in. One of the things you really want to pay attention to, if you newer bettors, if you're paying attention to this, if you've got like 68% of the bets are on one team, but 35% of the money, that tells you that the average Joe is coming in and making bets, but the sharps are on the other side. I always want to be on the side of the sharps. And Matt's already told you 66% of the bets are on Illinois, but 80-something% of this money is coming in. That tells you the sharps like Illinois a lot.
Yep.
And so that's a good sign for us Illini fans, if you just want to put it bluntly.
Yep, absolutely. Which I think I'm going to go try to lock that in right now after I get off this.
That breaks a cardinal rule. I do not bet on or against my team in college. Obviously, I bet against the Bears.
Hey, how can you do that in Tuscola, Matt?
I'm in Texas, and I still can't do it here.
Oh, my gosh. What? Man. All right. Well, that stinks. But anyway, hopefully anybody got to see Matt this weekend. He was at the Illinois FAU game, and his mom was celebrated, at Tuscola. Dude, that's awesome. Congrats. And how many years was he there?
20 plus years. So she's next Friday, or this Friday, will be her last day at the high school. So she got voted Grand Marshal for the parade, and we celebrated her all weekend. So it was great.
Man, hey, can't get better than that.
No, we can't.
Awesome.
All right. Well, that'll do it for another episode of Fade the Duce. Fun as always. You can catch me and Kevin again Sunday night. We appreciate you guys following on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. That'll do it. Swap me out.
ILL.
I.